So this is our panel. This is called Finding Strength. Our three remarkable individuals, also three friends of mine, will be sharing their personal cancer journeys. And this conversation is going to explore adversity and finding resilience. So please welcome, over on your right, Janine Pardo, actor and founder of Janine Pardo Theatre Arts. She faced breast cancer in 2020 and now helps others discover their strength in adversity. A round of applause, please, for Janine. Here we have Steve Clark. He was diagnosed with stage 4 colorectal cancer in 2013. Steve has surpassed expectations, and he believes a diagnosis of stage 4 cancer doesn't have to be the end. It can be the reason to start living. Big round of applause, please, for Steve. Dahlia in the centre, a researcher and coach, was diagnosed with breast cancer at 33. She blends science and holistic wellness, advocating for younger women with cancer. It's Dahlia. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. How are you all?
Very good.
And actually, just
Mine working?
one quick thing to say. Whilst we're all cancer patients, the things that we're talking about today aren't cancer specific. They're learnings that can apply to any major challenges, certainly any health challenges, but general life challenges as well. So it's how we've been able to overcome things. And I think it's the fact it's cancer topics up here, you can apply them in that way as well. So I think it's quite key.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point to make. So to begin with, Janine, let's start with you. We'll go down the line if you like. Could you just introduce yourselves and just tell us what brought you here today?
Absolutely. So I'm an actor and I also have my own theatre school and I'm a yoga teacher as well. And we all face challenges in our lives, be it the breakdown of a relationship, the loss of someone close to us, or indeed a diagnosis. And I'd had a pretty idyllic life up until a few years ago where I faced all of those things within 3 years of each other, and the second two within 6 months. So I lost my father to COVID the day before lockdown, and then 6 months later I was diagnosed with breast cancer. In my 30s, seemingly very fit, healthy, you know, I thought I was doing all the right things. And to say that one of those things changed my perspective is an understatement. And it's given me a whole new outlook on life. But it's all the things here today that Alex has brought together, which really were my scaffolding throughout that journey and which really gave me a very different experience to other people. So it was the meditation, it was the yoga, it was the breath work, and it was the mindset around everything that I was going through and bringing it back to the present moment, how I could feel better in the now, which really I'm really passionate about. And I think it's something we can all apply in life to whatever we're going through. Thank you.
Dahlia.
Hi, I'm Dahlia. So my background's in clinical research. So I was actually working in oncology clinical trials, finding new medicines for cancer patients prior to my diagnosis. So I've got a very different perspective on cancer from that research side, and then now from personal experience of being diagnosed so young at 33. Again, like Janine, I'm not the stereotypical cancer patient. And what I really realised was that actually most people associate breast cancer with women that are, middle-aged and beyond. And actually people don't expect to see someone young or someone in their 20s or 30s with breast cancer. And actually, therefore, people are not checking because they think they're too young for breast cancer. They think that it's something that's not going to affect them at a young age. And actually, unfortunately, people impacted by breast cancer at a younger age are more likely to have less good outcomes, partly because they're not checking and maybe they're diagnosed later. So for me now, with my background as a researcher and also as a wellness coach, I've incorporated a lot of wellness as part of my healing, and I'm actually doing a talk at 2:30 in the Energy Fitness tent around my personal journey with cancer and tools that I used. However, it's really important for me now to advocate for younger women and to raise awareness around cancer in younger people because, it's a tragedy if our younger people are dying of cancer because they're not checking and they're not aware that it's something that can impact them. And like for me and Janine, we're both young, fit, healthy, doing the right things in terms of lifestyle, but actually no one is immune from cancer. I've personally got no family history, no background, so the fact that I got cancer is just, a complete curveball. So really, sitting here just to say that, everyone should check themselves, be aware of what's normal for their bodies, because, you never know when that may help and that you may find something early on that's treatable. So, yeah, this is why I'm here, really, just to increase the awareness and, to make sure people are advocating for their own healthcare also.
Thank you. And remarkably similar story to Dalia and Janine. So my name's Steve. At diagnosis 11 years ago, I was super fit. I was a 40-minute 10K runner, mixed martial artist, yoga teacher. I used to teach Al before she became a yoga teacher. And so, super, super fit. No one would have seen me as being a cancer patient. In fact, when I was diagnosed, the words that the gastroenterologist said, none of the team saw you as cancer. And they were all in shock. But I was diagnosed with stage 4 at diagnosis, which is the most advanced, so it was in multiple organs. And where I've come to here over those years, as well as looking after my own health, I've been doing a lot to help and support other patients for about the last 8-9 years of it. And that's what Strive for Five's about. It's a program to help other patients. And the big thing, and it's something Janine and I were chatting about just beforehand, it's really important that we do a lot to raise awareness amongst the general population, so people do check. All the screening programs are really important. But it's also really important that we do a lot to help people that are diagnosed with advanced disease, because advanced cancer and many, many advanced diseases are now chronic diseases. It's long-term care. And the psychological approach, the mindset, is such an important part of that, as to how you set up for receiving your treatment, how you interact with your doctors, with your nurses, with other patients, and life. Because you don't get taught, I'm sure you'd all say, I had cancer, but it wasn't just me. My friends and family were all part of it. And so I think it's that ability to chat and communicate and open up. And it all comes under the title mindset, doesn't it?
Gosh, there are like 10 different strains. I feel like I could go off on all of these. Something that resonates is that all three of you were physically fit and healthy. And I mean, I know Janine and Steve very well. I've known you for a long time. Dalia, only from what you've just said, I can assume the same, that you were also already mindful. So what can we delve into there? What else can we be doing to arm ourselves? Or what's the magic answer?
I think the reality is that no one knows what life is going to throw at you, and it can be positive or not. And I think that, you're going to be a little bit ahead of the game if you're already healthy and you've got, you've got all these tools. You're going to approach any situation with you've got a better chance because you're using all these tools. And I think that's why we are where we are, because of these things. And that's our message. I think that's why we're so passionate about this, because we're saying whatever obstacle you face, whatever challenge, how can you see it as an opportunity for growth, an opportunity for healing, and where can you learn in that? Because we're all going to have those things, and we just don't know. You can do all the right things and it can still happen to you. And I remember being so angry, but I use, really good products. They're all clean, and I exercise, and I don't smoke. But it's actually, there's so many other factors that come into it, and you've got to set that aside a little bit. Do your best, be the healthiest version, but actually most of it is about, is your mind healthy? Are you, what you're going through, how are you dealing with it? Are you dealing with those emotions? And if you bring everything back to the present moment, how can I make myself feel better right now? How can I be more mindful now in, drinking this cup of tea with the sunlight on my face, having a lovely catch up with my friend, walking in nature? These are all the things that are going to help us, I think.
I remember Steve used to always say that you felt like your life leading up to it was preparing you for your cancer journey.
Yeah, and I always said, if I'd known that, I'd have concentrated and worked harder at it. But yeah, absolutely. And it matches very much in with what Janine was saying there. You know, approaching life, you know, grabbing hold of life, enjoying life, etc. It all sets you up so that you can make the most of your life as you are now and as things are going. But if big challenges come your way, you're better equipped to deal with it. So being physically fit and healthy, for definite, helped me get through the major surgery and the chemotherapy and all the other challenges that came through. But the psychological well-being, the mental well-being of the work I'd done around meditation, mindfulness and that sort of thing definitely helped. And there are two clear examples. I'll tell them very quickly if that's all right. The day of my diagnosis, because nobody was expecting a cancer diagnosis, sitting in front of the doctor, I then had to drive home on my own to cope with being told that I'd got cancer throughout my body. Mindfulness got me home. I concentrated on every aspect of driving. I'd never been that focused on a car as I was driving along, and I was completely mindful. Got home and I collapsed, absolutely howled. But then I became aware of different parts of my personality reacting in different ways. And it was like the British part of me saying, pull yourself together, don't be silly. The enlightened version of me saying, this is a process you have to go through. And I was able to observe myself doing these, and I ended up laughing at myself for it. But the other one is a very quick one. After my first chemo, and we all know scare stories of chemo. And you know, I will say, chemo is the reason that I'm here 11 years later. Chemo is my friend. I'm still on chemo now, after 11 years. It is my friend. The first cycle of chemo was probably my worst because I was scared of it. And that's the psychological approach. I let that beat me. And the morning after I'd had my chemo, I was sitting at home, feeling sick, and I was thinking, this is it now. You knew it was going to happen. It's coming on now. And luckily, because of mindfulness, because of the work I'd done, I heard myself, I was aware of myself thinking, I think, hang on a minute, is that me? So I had a quick read of what can I do to deal with nausea. And I'm not saying, it's not everybody that gets nausea on chemo has created it themselves. It's not the case. In my case, it was. I quickly looked and said, you know, don't lie down, sit up, eat some toast, walk around if you can. Did those things and felt better and suddenly became aware of it.
And I think that's what we were talking about earlier. It's not about toxic positivity or thinking, you know, I'm going to be fine, everything's fine, because it's not. You feel horrendous. I mean, I remember after my first chemo, sitting there thinking, I'm never going to be able to send an email again. Not that I'm not going to be able to walk or run or dance, that I'm never going to be able to send an email again because I literally couldn't move. But what you're saying is what we spoke about. It's about awareness, being aware of your feelings and your emotions and witnessing them, and then seeing, is there an opportunity here for me to turn that thought around a little bit or come at it from a different perspective? And I think that's the key, really.
I think the other important thing to mention is that actually, you know, even if you, a bit like Janine, I felt very angry that I was diagnosed, you know, particularly at an early age, and particularly when I had been doing what I thought were the right things. And actually, I went to a day that was for younger women impacted by breast cancer, and they had all gone through their various treatments, and I was just at the start of my journey. And one of the ladies said to me, she said, you need to be so fit and healthy to withstand chemo. And it really stuck with me because I thought, you know, everything I've done has been wasted because I've been diagnosed with cancer. You know, surely I've done something wrong. But actually, those words stuck with me. And actually, everything that you do that helps your physical well-being, your mental well-being, will actually set you up. So, you know, we can't prevent those things from happening. But actually, if we've got a strong body and we've got tools that can help our minds, those things will get us further. Because actually, you know, if you're not fit and you have chemo and it wears you down, and, you know, you need to be able to have that resilience almost in your body to withstand these things. Because, you know, chemo does, it strips you down. It stripped me down. I mean, I was very, very sick with it. I was one of those people that was just very sick. But throughout it, you know, and it really impacts your state of mind also. So everyone thinks chemo affects your physical body, but you think about it, the days when you're ill, you've got a cold, you've got a flu, and how down you feel just because you don't feel well in your body. And chemotherapy is very much like that. So, it sort of mentally strips you away. But if you can actually look from a different perspective, almost from an outside looking in, and say, okay, I'm feeling this way, but it's not me, it's just what I'm going through. And if you can try and talk yourself around and use those tools, use those mindfulness tools, or for me, I had coaching tools. And actually, I did my coaching diploma back in 2018. And all of these things that I learned through my coaching as well, that set me up. If there's one thing that really massively helped me, and that if there's one benefit from doing my coaching, it was just to help me through my own cancer diagnosis and treatment, because you really need to have tools available in your head, or that you can go to, whatever works for you. And I think it's really whatever works for you, whether it's exercise, yoga, Pilates, just finding those things specific to you. Even if it's, my dad, he's sat over here, he swims every day, and that for him, it's swimming, but actually it's a mindful activity, and he does that every day, and that keeps his mental well-being strong. So whilst he might not say to me, oh, Dahlia, I'm doing a mindful activity, for him, that's his mindful activity. And, so whatever works, you don't need to be caught up in this very sort of the well-being lingo. You can just do whatever works for you.
Yeah,
and that's it. It's accessible for everyone. It doesn't need to be, you don't need to be coaching, yoga, all of this. Just, swimming, running, making your cup of tea, doing whatever you love. And that's it. It's finding what you love and doing that, and doing as much of that. Because when you're actually going through something difficult, you need to hold on to those moments of things you love. And that's what gets you through. And that's what got me through.
And it's like you touched on at the beginning, Steve, it's important for us to remember, I don't know how many people in the audience have had cancer or have experienced somebody with cancer. Any hands? So it's a lot of people. But also, we may not have necessarily had cancer ourselves or known somebody who has had cancer. We may have lost somebody. We may have experienced grief in various forms. We may have... I'm sure everyone in here can say that they've experienced grief or have someone who's gone through some illness of some sort or anything like that. But everything that we're learning, now's not the time.
Just hold on to everything.
And this is about finding strength in those times, isn't it? And it can be anything that we're hit with. I wonder what the word strength means to each of you now, and whether that's different to what it was before.
It's funny because I remember vividly so many people saying, "Oh, you're so strong to to be going through everything you're going through. You're so strong. How do you do it?" And I thought about it for a long time, and my answer always is, "What option is there? What option is there?" But then somebody said to me, "But there is an option. Not everyone has that." And I guess it's just baby steps. And it, again, is applicable to any difficult life situation. Sometimes it's just a small step in the right direction, something to make you feel better. And sometimes it's that chat with a friend. It's finding strength in anything that makes you feel better. And that's, and remembering that everything that we go through is temporary. I clung on to that phrase, this too shall pass, just knowing that this isn't forever. I'm not going to be bald forever. I'm not going to feel like this forever. And now I look back and I think, did that even happen? Wow.
Can we just look at Janine's hair? That is real hair, which she had forever, the whole time I knew her, and then she lost all of it. And now look at it, it's back with a vengeance.
And there was a time when I thought, I'm never ever going to have any hair.
Incredible. I mean, even your hair deserves a round of applause.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm holding on to Janine's hair because I'm like,
I was going to say, no one says that for me. It's strange.
I'll lend you some.
I'm a couple of years behind, but I've got I'm aspiring to this level of length and curls. I think strength for me is, I think it's just finding the tools and having access to tools in your toolbox. And actually, sometimes finding strength it's not always strength within you. I mean, there were some days where, I just didn't have the strength left in myself anymore. You keep going, and sometimes actually you need to get that strength from outside. You're having a day where you think, I just don't know if I can do this anymore. And actually having those people around you, it's your wider circle. I think it's your community. It's the people that love you and that you love them. And for me, that's been a big source of strength, because I think really, saying that, sitting here, and yes, you have to have your own, you really do have to find that mental fortitude to get through, absolutely. But then you can't have that absolutely every hour of the day.
And strength surely is also having some days where you go, do you know what, I'm just not going to be today. I'm just not going to do anything. Like,
and
that's a strong
that.
choice, right?
Taking the rest, and actually not always being positive. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes the drugs that they give you, even if you're very positive, I'm generally a very positive person, but during chemo they put me on some drugs to help me to withstand that chemo that actually made me feel very depressed and very down. And actually I didn't realise it was impacting my mental health. I thought, I'm just feeling a bit down. But actually, there's some drugs that are associated with, mental health issues that they can give you. And I realised that actually it's these drugs are actually affecting me. So I actually would have a period of time during every chemo cycle where I wasn't me anymore. And that was actually quite scary, because it's almost like I was replaced by someone else I didn't recognise. But I managed to know myself well enough that I realised that wasn't me. And actually then that was okay, because I thought, well, that's fine. It's just like a visitor. So it's almost like having tools to deal with these situations, and actually to know yourself well enough that when something doesn't feel right, whether it's physically on your body or just mentally, if mentally I'm not feeling like myself at the moment, well, what can I do about that? And how can I rectify it? So I think it's just being awareness of yourself, what's right for you, just knowing yourself and knowing what you need as well in that moment. That's so important. So whether you need the rest, whether you need to go and, speak to your family or friends, and, where is your strength? Who is your strength? And just, really having those pillars available for yourself.
What they said. It's always hard going third, isn't it? It's like, what
I'll do it the other way around, sorry.
Yeah, thanks. There's an old phrase that you don't know how strong you are until strong is the only option. And it's a really good phrase, but it does miss a little bit, because you have to choose to be strong. There are times when you are just going to fall over, and strong isn't possible. But there's times when you catch yourself and you realise that you're pitying. You're allowing yourself to spiral. And it's that bit, like you both said about, you suddenly catch yourself and think, this isn't me. And that's really, really important. But in terms of strength, for me, and again, just reflecting on, are you bouncing there? Okay. Sit more central. Sorry. There you go. In terms of finding strength, one of the things that changed with me was the ability to ask for help.
Yeah.
And again, so this isn't just going through cancer. This isn't just going through chemo. This is life. You can think about this with any major challenge that you're facing. It's the ability, and this is, I have to say, especially as a bloke, a British bloke, not containing it in, not going and hiding in a corner and just going, grr. Yeah. It's actually being able to turn around and say, I can't do this on my own. And with my cancer diagnosis, it's something, I only had a few days between diagnosis and surgery, literally, 3-4 days. I had to process things really, really quickly. And one of the things was, for a period of time, I'm not in control of my life. I'm beholden to my specialists. I'm beholden to the drugs that I'm on. I'm beholden to the fact I've got a big scar down the middle, and so I couldn't pick up a teacup and walk with it. So it's those things. But what I could do is ask for help. And so originally, it was actually just because I was in hospital for 7 days on that original operation. And I'd been in hospital once before for a small op for about 3 days. And I had 15 people visit on one day and nobody visit for the other 2. And so I got one of my friends to coordinate a visitor schedule. So I had 2 visitors a day for the 7 days I was in, which made sense. But actually then that carried on because I realised when I got home, I couldn't, I needed people to help me. And so that carried on. And then when I hit into chemo, because there are points in the chemo cycle when you really need help, and so that carried on. So it became known as my dance card.
Yeah, and now we all have to go through his booking system.
Absolutely. but the dance card ran for about 8 months. And actually it was incredible because that was me saying to people I need help. And there was a point I remember, this is where little things make a difference. Because within this sort of thing, we can talk about the major things. I live alone, and there was a point when I was looking at my back garden and it was a state, and at that point, I couldn't pick things up to carry them. And I just put a note out to my friends saying, can anybody come and help with the garden, please? Within a couple of days, I've got 6 or 7 people mowing the lawn, pruning the hedges. My garden had never looked so good, but it was the willingness to ask for help. And I think that's really important to recognise there are things you can't control, but there are things that you can do about it. And that makes a difference.
And can I also add that sometimes it's not that you have strength in those moments, because there are many moments, as we've said, that you feel like you have no strength at all. But when the next life challenge comes along, you'll look back and you'll think, I'm resilient. I am strong, and I'm wearing the previous challenges like a suit of armour now. Yes. And I can absolutely deal with that because look at what I've dealt with. Yeah. And so it's maybe recognising that strength after the event.
Yeah, that's a big superpower, isn't it? That built-up resilience. What, it sounds like for you, like asking for help was probably quite a big thing that you've learnt. And I wondered if that was the case. Is there something in each of you that you learnt about yourselves that you weren't aware of before? Whether it was a big obstacle in yourself that you overcame, or what I'm trying to ask. You're all nodding, so you go. Steve, you can start.
I get to go first, yeah. Actually, this is going to sound really odd. It was actually my relationships with friends and family. Al I've known for a long, long time, way before I was diagnosed. I had lots of friends, lots of good friends. We were good friends. And I've got a good relationship with my family. But it actually was a lot of it was quite superficial. And a lot of my friendships were associations with people. Going through this, and I learned a lot about people. But actually, I learned how to open up to people more. And so one of the things, and I always say, I gained a lot from cancer. I wish I hadn't got it. I wish I hadn't had it. But actually, there's a lot of things I've gained. And one of the biggest is my much, much better relationships with friends and family, much deeper, enriching, fulfilling relationships that are just fabulous. And I never knew I didn't have them before.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Dahlia?
I think for me, it was really, the thing that I learnt was just how important it is to look after yourself. Because actually, when you don't or when you are ill, that's really the only thing that matters is your health and bringing your health back. So, I was always doing too many things at once, cramming everything like so many people do, 10 million things on the go like a crazy person. And, I should have really listened more to my dad being like, just you put too much on your plate. And, I know that, but it's almost like the more you do it, the more you just keep piling it on. And before you know, you've got all of these things. And actually, when I got diagnosed, I just stopped and I thought, wow, what are you doing? You've got all of this stuff going on. And I actually couldn't carry on doing all of these things that I was doing. So I just stopped. I just stopped everything. I just had to take that time for myself. And I think that was the first time in whenever I can't even remember a previous time where I've actually stopped and given myself that time, whether it's always studying, always working, always doing a house up, all of these things, and actually stop and like, what do I need? What do I need in this moment? And that for me has been a real big learning curve, and I have to really catch myself because it's not a natural state. I do always want to keep piling things back on my plate again. But I now actually do try and listen more and actually think, what can I feasibly do in this time? You know, I've got a day. Do I need to do 50 things, or could I actually just do 2 things and that's okay? So I think sometimes it's giving ourselves that time to do, you know, not necessarily doing nothing, but actually creating that space for us to rest, you know, instead of just always being, it's that saying, isn't it, of being human beings rather than human doings. Yeah. And I was always a human doing, and actually I'm trying to be more mindful, you know, just actually pausing, not feeling like it's a waste of time if I'm not achieving something. That was another big
permission
thing for me.
To stop, right?
Permission to not just be, you know, I'm not a machine. I was treating myself like a machine before, you know, just what's my productivity output? And actually that's not sustainable. And I thought, well, if I actually want to make it to, you know, my 35th birthday, maybe I need to slow down. Otherwise, you know, I'm not going to last very long, you know, doing this. So I think sometimes it's actually stopping and reevaluating. So again, you know, doing the exercise, you know, doing all of the right things, eating well, that's fine. But actually, what mental state are you in? Are you overwhelmed? Are you stressed? Are you burnt out? Because actually all of those things, you know, that impacts your physical body too. And I realised that, yeah, maybe that's what I needed to address. So that's been a big learning. So, you know, take the time for yourselves, even if you think you can't, because, you know, that could really save you.
I absolutely agree. I think I was very much the same, always busy, always on the go, and suddenly a diagnosis and you're completely stopped in your tracks. And I always say now, cancer was my greatest teacher. It's taught me so many incredible things. I always knew I had amazing family and friends, but wow, suddenly you're overwhelmed with the love from the people around you. And so I suddenly became so incredibly grateful for very simple things. And even when I went back to work to do the things I love, I just had this outpouring of happiness to be able to do simple things. I also realized that I was a person that had very little boundaries. And I would just say, yes, I'll do that. Do you want to go here? Yeah, okay. Do you want to do this? And I probably wouldn't want to do those things. And interestingly, cancer is a disease of no boundaries, you know, and so I thought, okay, so I need to learn to say no. I need to say, no, actually, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to go here. And I think my friends are a little bit like, oh, who is this person? And one of the things we joke about is that I always say now, I only do things that bring me deep joy. So a lot of things fell away after my cancer. I'm not going to do that anymore because I was doing it because, I don't know why, maybe for other people or because I thought I should do it. And now I'm like, does it bring me deep joy? No, I'm not going to do it then. And I said to Alex the other day, I said, I need to somehow find a bit more balance again because I'm just having a lovely time. I've spent the last 2 years like, do you want to, Alex is great for events. She's like, invites me to everything. And so I just spend a lot of time going to lovely places and going on amazing holidays. And I said, I really think I need to like refocus and start doing some hard work again because I'm just having a lovely time.
We were lying by the pool at the time when we were talking about it. It's just not today.
Yeah, so it's been my greatest teacher, and I just feel, it's funny because I feel fitter than I did before, I feel happier than I did before, and I just feel exceptionally lucky.
We have a few minutes left, and I think probably we'll save questions for when you go over to the tent. I wondered, so in the last year, probably, I also have discovered a few things that are what I would call non-negotiables. And so I absolutely know that when I am flat out, which as you know is
quite a lot
all the time, but I have now made a lot more of a conscious decision to have non-negotiables, and they are the gym, the sauna, the ice bath.
I'm with you on all of those days when we do those things.
Just about. She does 1 minute in the ice bath at a push. But before, I would have gone, and dare I say it, this week I wasn't able to yesterday. I would like to have put it in, and I really did try and get that in. But I was like, if I do that, I won't be able to put on a festival. That was my only thing. But yeah, until a year ago, I would have been like, oh yeah, but the things I actually want to do, the things that are important that I know will fill my cup back up, those non-negotiables, silence for me is a huge thing. Baths are a huge thing. They would have been the last thing on my priority list, whereas now I'm much better. So what are your non-negotiables? Dahlia.
And that's a bit of a tricky one, but I think like you, exercise, I really prioritise that because I know that also will reduce my risk of cancer recurrence as well. Taking time for myself, getting enough sleep. Sleep's so important. And, you know, just wearing the nice clothes and burning the nice candles.
Don't save anything for a special occasion.
Yeah, this is it. You know, don't save things. And if you've got an event, like now, I just like put on a fabulous dress because I'm like, why not? Don't put it in the cupboard and wear it someday.
Yeah, me too.
Wear it now. You know.
Only on a Sunday, Steve. Only on a Sunday.
Yeah, so just don't save. I think doing the things you want to do now, I think not assuming, oh, I'll do that in 5 years' time or, you know, actually, funnily enough, I don't really have a plan for life now. You know, at some point you have these like 5-year plans or whatever plans, you think, I want to do this. Actually, I don't really know what I want to do. All I want to do at the moment is be mindful and take each day and each week as it comes. And that's such a good tool for me, really. I mean, it doesn't mean that I don't plan things, but it just means that I'm not scheduling out my whole life. And that also means I'm not postponing things. So if I want to do, you know, if I want to go on a trip or I want to do something, you know, just say yes to it now and plan it, because actually we can't assume we've got all the time in the world. And, you know, sometimes life has different plans as well for us. So, you know, prime example, COVID happening, you know, thinking, oh, we'll go on holiday in a few months' time, and then no one could go on holiday for a long time. So actually, you know, if you don't do something now, if you don't seize that moment, then, you know, you might not get that moment again. So just enjoy it and take things and do things as much as you can now.
I love that. Nini?
Yes, I totally agree. I mean, I've never saved the dress for the special occasion or whatever it is. I'm always one that gets it all out every day. Well, not all of it, but...
Sorry, Mum.
I read something the other day that it said we should all meditate on our own mortality, and I think that's so true, because time is a gift and we don't know how long we've got. And if you were told tomorrow that you only had however long it was, what would you do? What would become your non-negotiables? What would become important to you? And I think those are the things you need to focus on. And so for me, it is friends and family. It is experiences I want to do, you know, travel. But I mean, exercise is way up there. I think the people at our gym think I'm slightly... because I'm always there, but I know how much that is going to reduce my risk of recurrence. So, you know, that's really high on the list. Time in nature, but it's whatever works for you. And I think, but it is really important that without your health, and that's your healthy mindset or your healthy body, you have nothing. So that has to be our priority in whatever we're doing.
I sort of did this a while ago, didn't I? Even before diagnosis.
Cake.
I did, sorry?
Cake.
Cake is always on the list. Yeah. And it is one of those things, because obviously everybody says, well, diet's very important. You've got cancer, you've got to watch what you eat and that sort of thing. Yeah, most of the time, but you've got to have your treat. So definitely cake's there.
Is that why you made me have a treat earlier?
Yeah. And it's nice to share these things. But no, I reprioritized my life 8 years before I was diagnosed. I was... working 6 days a week, sleeping on the 7th, 12-hour days, full on, successful in business, senior manager, and that sort of thing. I took the opportunity of a redundancy package to re-evaluate my life and set up a business which meant that I only had to work 3 or 4 days a week. I could get a better balance to things. It helped me to get fitter. I was able to go to the gym more. I was able to socialize more. It's what Al referred to earlier, where it was that was me getting ready for cancer. didn't know it, but I was. But the reevaluating life on a regular basis is really important. Are you doing things that are crap, that you're just doing for the sake of it, that is just habit, it's not necessary? Get rid of those things. It's not important. Make sure that you're doing, yes, your non-negotiables. For me, one of the big ones, walking the dog. Spending time with the dog. That's the nature thing that you were talking about. I love being in the woods, walking through the woods with my dog, and actually quite often with friends, chatting. It's wonderful. It's good for the soul. But it is that, the reason that I can do that is by doing the reevaluation every now and then. The other thing, they're not putting off to tomorrow. I did that. I put off my entire life until I was like late 40s. And since then, I've done the bucket list. We've spoken about this a lot. I've actually done most of my bucket list. I have to extend it. What a great problem to have. What else do I want to do? And the bucket list doesn't have to be the big adventures. And this is where I'd say, we've got very much time, sorry. The image that people have about stage 4 cancer, about advanced cancer, about cancer spread, is people are very quiet, they sit at home, they don't have a life. Since I had stage 4 cancer and still being on chemo, I've been to Bali, I've walked through the rainforest in Borneo, I've travelled to Vietnam, I've been to South America, I've done tons of things. I speak at international medical conferences, all of these things that I'd put off all of this stuff. And I've actually been getting on doing them. But little things, because it doesn't have to be big things. I'm not from around here. I'm a black country boy. I'm from the Midlands. I'd never been to Stonehenge. So I made a point. Went to Stonehenge with a gang of friends. I had about a dozen friends. And it was the best day, because it doesn't all have to be big shit. Yeah. It can be normal stuff. Getting together and doing stuff. And actually making time to do that. The reprioritizing life, spotting these things, sharing stuff. Reprioritizing. I think that's all really important. Yeah. Did I go on too much?
No, it's perfect. You're my hero. You know that. Final word? Nutshell? Anybody?
Just
no pressure.
Live your life, do what makes you happy, and enjoy every moment.
And don't beat yourself up.
Yeah. Burn the white company candles. Yeah. don't leave them stacking up on the side from every birthday and Christmas. They're all getting burnt now.
And wear that dress.
Yes.
Please give a huge round of applause for Janine, Dahlia, and Steve. Yeah, that was amazing.